Hello everyone, this is Phantom right here, and if you're wondering why my voice sounds a little nasally, it's because I unfortunately caught strep throat, and you'd figure Gloria, or Grace, or whatever you want to call me, what the fuck are you doing out of bed? Go shove some tea up your butt before I kill you. You might be thinking that, but don't worry, I'll be fine. I have medication from the doctor, and yeah, nothing else is really wrong, aside from some minor chest pains that occurred the previous night before this recording. It got to the point where I had to go to the emergency room where I found out I had strep throat. So I guess it was a good thing I went because otherwise I would have never found out and I would have been suffering. But anyway, aside from that whole story, why don't we go ahead and take a look at this brand new story? Now I know what you're thinking. You said you weren't going to take any more requests, so why are you taking a request? This isn't just any request. This is a full-fledged series requested story, and this was made months ago, back when I was still taking requests. And I believe that this request was made at some point during May or July. And I unfortunately, because of my breakup and because of the stress of summer and school, I've had literally no time to work on it. And it doesn't help that on DeviantArt, that this request was made on DeviantArt, where I unfortunately am not active much anymore. I'm more active on Wattpad. Plus, DeviantArt is banned from my school Wi-Fi. You cannot get on there without a VPN, and I can't do that on the school computers. So it meant that I had to work on this story completely on Wattpad so I can copy and paste the story into DeviantArt, which is very frustrating. But at the same time, it's easy enough because it's just like 2 buttons and 1 click. So it's not a big deal. I'm not too mad about it because I know that this person really wanted this request. This is a Piccolo X Kuele. I'm not honestly sure how to say the name. I really should have asked the requester about it. But this person was so sweet to me for saying, "Oh, don't worry, you can take all the time you need in order to be able to make this story come to life. So long as it happens, I'll be okay." But they go by Lake Cookie on DeviantArt, and they also go by apologies. I know this is so unprofessional, but they go by Luna Flames Protocol on YouTube. So yeah, and not to mention the photo that you guys are seeing right now is also made by Lake Cookie, aka Luna Flames Protocol, because they had wanted to. I had asked them, if it's your idea, I feel like you should be the one to draw the fan art for it, and they did. And I think I'm gonna do this where either I edit the photo to make consecutive covers, or I ask her, do you think you can make several of these photos? So that way, like, with different poses, with different cute little styles and everything like that, because I feel like that'd be interesting both ways. So Luna, if you're watching this, thank you so dearly much for making this story. I am very honored that you chose me to make this series, and I plan on doing my very best. But with all that out of the way, Cooley or Kuele, you know what, I'm gonna call him Kuele, because I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name, Luna, but that's how I'm gonna pronounce it. You're more than welcome to correct me in the comments below. But until then, this is Chapter 1, The Kidnapping. Let's get started. Kuele felt tears stream down his face as he was being dragged through the dirt, his father screaming out, begging for their captors to let them go. "Please, not my son! Anything but my son!" Kuele cried and attempted to break free from his kidnapper's grip. "Stop struggling!" This only made Kuele attempt to escape more, and he screamed. The strange creature was losing his grip, so he raised his fist in desperate action. Kuele looked up and screamed. His father was begging in the background, but he couldn't hear him over his own intense heartbeat. When Kuele came to, he looked around and saw that his clothes were muddied and with some small tears that were scattered here and there. It seemed he was locked in a cell with other young children of other planets. Suddenly, a pair of dungeon doors opened on the opposite side of the room, and he fell back in order to pretend to be asleep. Kuele opened one eye carefully and saw a Saiyan female and a changeling. If you don't know what a changeling is, it's the proper name for Grace's race. Oh my god, my voice, hang on. That's better. I'm so sorry about my voice, guys. I might actually just end up doing a recreation of this chapter just so I can, when my voice went back to normal. But until then, you're going to have to suffer with this. So, that's your, not, I don't know. This is my punishment, more like. They both were tossed in the barred room with much disregard, almost as if these poor children were just pieces of a tiny ounce of trash or tissue paper. But the worst part was, in this person's sick and twisted mind, that was the truth. He felt that this was necessary and that he was doing the universe a favor, almost as if the act of ripping children's minds apart and torturing those who dared to fight back was considered a wise choice. As soon as the doors closed again, Kuele opened his other eye to make sure he was safe to approach the other two prisoners. He took a closer look at the humanoid one. She had a tail that resembled a monkey's tail. Strange, Kuele thought. He then looked over at the changeling. While he was clueless as to what the monkey-tailed creature was, he knew that the changeling was a very fearsome and strong race. Kuele recollected on a time when his father warned him of one in particular. His father said that he was different. He was a different changeling. He was considered the emperor of the universe because of his unmatched power, as well as his reputation for slaughtering whole planets at a time before selling them for a profit. Both of them were sleeping soundly instead of comatose. Kuele gently shook them and poked them lightly to awaken them. The girl was the first to open her eyes, while the changeling remained asleep. Apologies. Huh? She looked over at the Namekian in front of her and had a curious expression on her face. Hey, you're a Namekian, right? I am. I'm Kuele. Do you by any chance know where we are? The girl put a finger to her chin, deep in thought. After a moment, she had a look of both realization and horror on her face. We're on Dr. Zurich's planet. Zurich? Who is that? And why is this place named after a doctor? Because he's one of Lord Freeze's retired doctors, and is the universal name for one of the most vicious scientists in the whole galaxy. Kuele's face had a trace of blue across his face. Horror and chance of survival flooded his mind. Say, how'd you get here anyway? Kuele's ears chirped at that question. He sighed and began to explain that these strange creatures he had never seen, much less heard of, appeared on Namek to take him away from his father. He explained that Namekians tend to be well known for having special powers, such as making Dragon Balls, orbs of power, and dragons to grant certain a number of wishes. Namekians also did their best to keep these magical orbs to themselves, simply because they were fearful of this precise situation: kidnapping, torturing, and spilling of someone's innocent blood simply because they were unable to make a stud ball. Can you make them? The girl asked. No, my father could. But I have a different power. This power can be gained through years of practice and study, but the more rare case is being gifted this special skill when first hatched. Kuele was one of the extremely few Namekians that was gifted the control of the elements. Most of the Namekians with this ability are able to either control several elements or dedicate studying to one element in particular. Really? What elements do you have? Kuele didn't respond at first, at least not with words. His eyes glowed green. The left green, the right blue. The girl grew apprehensive, but before she could question him, he walked over to the changeling and held his hand out in front of himself. From the palm of his hand, a blue flower with emerald green leaves blossomed. The blue flower was a very light shade in its center. However, when it went down towards the tips of the petals, it went to a darker shade that almost resembled a purple. The flower started to glitter a gold, and he took the flower from his palm. Kuele took the flower and waved it in front of the changeling's nose. His eyes twitched and slowly opened to reveal them eyes that almost glowed red. Kuele leaned back, allowing the changeling to slowly gain awareness of where it was exactly he was and what was transpiring. The changeling sat up and looked at Kuele with wonder, and the same girl looked just as amazed as he was. Kuele looked at them both, confused. I was gifted the ability to control and summon plants. I don't even need land or soil. I can use my hands alone to get a flower to bloom to its fullest potential. I still don't know how to make grass or trees, but I can make flowers and a couple of herbs, he said as he picked up the flower. This is a flower that is said to awaken and restore energy. Well, I guess that explains why I feel wide awake. The changeling then let out a muffled yawn. Mostly. Who are you, Namekian? I'm Kuele. The girl smiled and held out her hand. I'm Maze. I'm a Saiyan. Her tail moved behind her with pride. Hesitantly, Kuele took her hand and shook it lightly. The changeling stood and smiled. I'm Yams. I'm a changeling. Maze froze at the statement. Changeling? Do you mean you're part of the same race as Lord Frieza? He nodded. He and his family were originally disavowed from our planet because of their exceeding pride. His father, out of resentment, made a vow to conquer the universe to prove that they were to be worshipped as they deserved. We often do not like to be being grouped with them simply because they gave us a soiled name. A name that said we only sought power and control over anything that dares to exist in any state or form. Yams had a scowl on his face by the end of it and said nothing more. Keys clanged against the metal doors and outside, and the three of them panicked. They quickly dropped to the floor, trying to keep their breath steady and attempting to control the shivers that went up and down their bodies. The doors shed sunlight into the room, and Kuele did everything in his power not to be fazed by it. A man in a lab coat and a horrifying mask opened the cell doors. He slowly walked to his sectioned room, as though he were admiring some mystical work of art. After a few long and silent moments, he stopped in front of Kuele. Even with the mask and even with Kuele's eyes closed, he knew that behind that hideous mask was a delightful and sadistic smirk. He picked up Kuele, tucking him under his arm, and left the room, leaving a speechless pair of children. All Kuele could do at that moment, as he was being carried to a certain doom, was think of how in the world he got to this moment, and what sort of putrid fire his father was suffering. But the one thing he wasn't thinking was what kind of fire he was about to endure. End of chapter 1. As I always say with every story I make, this was so much fun, and I cannot believe that this is 12 minutes long. But I am so honored, Luna, that you have offered to have me write this story. You have done such well done work with the detail and telling me what to do, that I simply think that I think it should be you who's writing the story, because you were so gifted at giving me an idea. And it was so detailed in this message that she had sent me. She gave me such detailed descriptions. And she even specifically told me that the relationship that Kuele and Piccolo have isn't one based off of sexual, but more of a romantic relationship. One out of mere admiration and love, not out of sex or lust, which I personally would agree with, because I think that yaoi often gets the name that, it's only about sex and nothing more, nothing less. And I'm like, well, there's more things to love than just that and lust, and in my opinion, I like to think that very much. But regardless of what you guys believe on that statement, I adore you guys, and I apologize so profusely for my voice sounding so terrible, but I really wanted to get this video out because this girl has waited far too long, and I owed it to her. Again, I will leave a link to her DeviantArt in the description box below. I will leave a link to the DeviantArt page of this book. But the chapter 1 part of this book on Wattpad is available on my profile page, which I will leave in the description box as well. Thank you all so dearly much for watching, and the next video will be the second part of the John Watson X-Rated story. There might be some edits for it to come, but if that is not the case, I will let you guys know. But thank you all so dearly much for watching, and as always, this is Phantom Rider, and I'll be seeing you all very soon. Bye-bye.